Good evening, everyone. It's Deborah Hamilton, and you are on the MAAP community call. I'm so glad all of you are here. Today was a busy day with the Why Do Pets Matter podcast. Hi, Sally. Hi, Karen. Hi, Rose. It was a busy day. Spoke to several really influential people who had such a great podcast. Still waiting for you to set one up, Karen, but it's okay. Today we're going to talk about having that conversation. And we've spoken about this a little bit before. However, it's been coming through my office more often that people don't like to have that conversation about setting up the plan for their pets, either with their family or with their breeder or with their owner. And so if the conversation comes up and there's pushback, what do you do? So for those of you who are new to the MAAP community, I'm going to take a quick minute to tell you what it's all about. The MAAP community helps people compile a plan for the care of their pets. It stands for making a plan, appointing caregivers, addressing the needs of your pet, and then publishing those plans. It is key to do all of those things. However, when you are appointing caregivers, you have to take into consideration if you bought your dog from a rescued it from a rescue and made a donation, or you purchased your dog from a breeder, any kind of breeder, and you signed a contract. You need to actually read that contract. I know it's a little crazy to think that somebody who signs a contract should read it first. Most people don't because they see. So for Susan, it was a cute little white fluffy Coton de Tuileries. And for Sally, it was this beautiful white snow covered face Irish setter. For me, it was a little puppy Irish setter, and got handed the contract, didn't bother reading it, signed it because I wanted the dog. And then when it came to my doing the right thing, making a plan for my pet, I made all these plans and my breeder got mad at me because I didn't include them. Because in the contract, there might be a paragraph that says you have to return the dog to your breeder if something happens to you. And they mean that because if they're really good breeders, they want to take your dog back if you can't care for it anymore, short term or long term. Well, I hope you can hear that noise in front of me because my dog is spinning around in front of me, chasing his tail. He is chasing it for all he's worth. We had a little bit of a come to Jesus talk. He is going to be given the invisible fence treatment tomorrow. Oh, he's throwing his toy around. That's what he's doing. Because he decided to take a walk today. Because I walked him 3 times. It wasn't like I hadn't walked him. But he was out with my husband, Jim, and he decided that he would continue down the block. And Jim sees this car driving really slow down the block. And that's because our dog was walking up the middle of the street from wherever he had gone. So we have been remiss in teaching him about the invisible fence because he's been so good. And my usual modus operandi is electrocute them on the invisible fence. They won't go anywhere. And then you won't have a problem. And I didn't take my own advice. So Junie will be listening to it. And what's good is he knows what the invisible fence is. And so when he hears it, he's going to stop. So there will be no pain involved. Irish setters are pain avoidant. They don't like pain at all. So when they hear the beep, they stop. I know that Sally has Roxy, who used to do certain things like bark incessantly. And she knew when she heard the beep on the bark collar that she'd stop barking and she'd wait. And then when she heard it reset, she'd start barking again. And then she'd hear the beeping on the collar and she'd stop. And she'd wait to hear it reset. And then she'd start barking again, because anyone who says an Irish setter is stupid has never owned one. They absolutely know everything. And if you can keep up with them, you're doing really well. However, the topic of tonight for the MAAP plan, and I'm going to check in with everyone in a minute, is how to have that conversation when you're setting up appointing caregivers. So you want to give your dog to your son, your daughter, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle, your mother, your father. You want to leave them in charge of your dog. You really don't want to return them to Deborah because, you know, she's the breeder. She has too many dogs. I want my dog to go to somebody they know. We haven't seen Deborah since, well, maybe we see her once a year for her birthday, but other than that, we don't see her. So that conversation is the one you want to have, and you want to be proactive about that. Because to make the plan without telling the co-owner or the breeder could create a conflict you didn't even intend to create. You didn't want to create it. You didn't think you were creating it. You thought you were doing a really good thing for the future care of your pets. And you now are faced with a Megillah. I can tell you I have 3 cases where it was the communication between the owner and the breeder that was not done initially, pre-paving a peaceful outcome. There were no questions asked. There were no suggestions made. And if there was a question asked or a suggestion made, the party who was receiving the question didn't ask curious questions of the question. So if someone comes up to you and says, I want to make a plan for the care of my pets, don't say, well, I get the pets, so don't worry about it. That might not necessarily be the best outcome that this person feels. So an answer that would be even better than, don't worry about it, I get them. Say, well, tell me a little bit about what you're thinking. Open-ended questions. Ask them what they're thinking. Ask who they think would get the pet. Ask if you could meet those people. Because it might be that you do have 6 dogs and a 7th dog would be one too many. And if you could leave it with the person's son or daughter, brother, sister, mother, father, the dog would know the person, the dog would feel connected to the person, and you would be connected to that person because you've already reached out and had a conversation and said, listen, I know I can get this pet back in the end if something happens to me. However, I want to make sure the pet is in a good home with people they know. And if you want to have this pet, and I think that, you know, Sally Anderson knows you and says you would be a really good home for Athena, I'm going to take that as a star in your box and ask to meet you, to have a chat with you, and then give you all the information that I gave Sally when she took on the snow-faced dog, what the parameters were, you know, love and affection and vet care and anything I can do to support. But if anything happened to you, the dog has to come back. And most people don't find that offensive. You know, it really is something that you have to have the conversation about. So before I go on any longer, I'm going to check in with everyone. Sally, how are the girls doing? I know that Roxy went to the vet today and got a really good bill of health. And even both ends were good. So that's great.
Well, for the first time ever, as we crossed into where she formerly lived, she started barking because she recognizes the aroma. And for the first time ever on the way home, I opened the windows and she started barking when she got home. It's like, I get this. I've got 2 homes. This was my home with Deborah. This is my home with Sally. And it was great because the vet was totally packed today. So I went to the door I normally go in, and I thought, there's no way I can get in this door. So I ran around to the other door. And then when I went in, I saw the vet. I said, oh, she took a tumble. Could you check her legs? She said, her legs are great. I saw both of you running across the front yard. And she goes, there's no problem, but I will check her legs right now and her hips. I go, thank you so much. She goes, she's running like a young dog. So yeah, we were very fortunate. We had a terrific vet report, and we left 1 dog at home when we got back, and she was very sad when we left. But when we got home and that dog sniffed the other dog, it's like, oh yeah, that's fine. You can go there all alone.
All by yourself. I know that
yourself.
smell. You can go all by yourself, and I don't even want to hear about it.
No. Thank you.
So Athena was like, just keep my distance from the veterinarian's office. Athena's a good girl. Susan, how's our girl?
Apology. I finally got in touch with Doug, and he's going to be coming to our home on May 26th. And so I've been talking with him and emailing, and he's giving me all kinds of advice and diet. And so I'm hoping for some breakthroughs on Maggie and
Yay.
hopeful. Yeah, I'm more
And-
hopeful.
And remember, if there's something you don't understand or you don't agree with, ask. Don't just say, well, this must be the way it's done. No, you ask a question. Like, it's okay to ask. And I think Doug is okay having people ask him questions. So don't hesitate. If he, rolls her over on her back and holds her down, that's one of the tried and true ways of dealing with dogs who have dominance issues, is you roll them over on their back because they're very vulnerable and she might struggle, and talk to him about it and go, what are you trying to do with this? How is this going to help? Because it's really important to know what he's doing, why he's doing it. So don't hesitate to ask, remember.
Yeah, I was surprised that he's coming actually to our home all the way from Richmond. I thought we were going to have to go there, but he said he'd rather work with her in her environment. And so he's just coming for an hour. So maybe this is just the beginning of, working with him and just seeing where things go.
Well,
But
that's
he's given us
fabulous.
some very strict rules. When she barks, we must ignore and stop using the water bottle, she told
Okay.
us. Got some special treats that he had recommended, and we'll see what happens.
Good. Take whatever information, this is his gig. What works for me with Irish setters may never work for somebody who has a Catan with a little bit of an issue. So I am free to give gentle advice, but I am always open to getting new and interesting suggestions for how to
Yeah.
the dog.
The proof is in the pudding, right? Whatever works, works. Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm so glad that he's going to come. That's fabulous. Yay. Hey, Jen,
Yeah.
how's our boy Tonka? I should probably ask how you are too, but
Yeah, that's okay. He's good. Yeah, he's been very happy. The weather here's been grand.
Yeah.
So he's getting a lot of outside time. So
good.
I think that he's really excited because every time he turns around, I'm like going for another walk. And I think he's like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah, because it's such a beautiful day. We've been locked in. Well, someone wants to say hello. June,
Oh.
June, say hello. Yes, I know. I know. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. So he likes lipstick, just so you know. So if I put lipstick on before I get on, he wants to always lick it off, which is really gross, I know, to most people. However, not to the people usually watching this video. Go away now. You have to find a new home. Someone's calling your name. So I'm so glad, and everything with you is good. And you have an upcoming program, right?
Yeah, June 25th is our next
Wonderful.
event. So
So make
Yeah.
sure you send me the link so that I can send it out there to everyone so they can join you. Because I know that Rose and I like to share that information because it's so good for the people and their pets.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Kaylina, how are our little baby puppies doing who are really big now?
That's what I was getting ready to say. Hello, everyone. The baby puppies are big. They're 7 months old, weighing 23 pounds, the biggest one.
And how
One of-
many did you keep, Kaylina?
I have 2 that I'm showing, a boy and a
That
girl.
wasn't the question. How
I have-
many did you keep?
2.
Oh, good. I thought you were parsing words. I kept 2 to show, and then I have the other 2 just to grow out to see, and then I have the other 2 because, so you found really great homes.
I hope so. They say, everything sounds like it's good, and you talk to people and you get to know them and it seems okay. So fingers crossed that they are good homes, because if not, my husband, you'll hear about him on the news.
Well, it's always about making sure you're proactive, which I know you are, to keep in touch and sort of nip any problem a little beagle puppy can create in a home. I actually had a call from Junie's brothers owners up in New Hampshire. They had a baby probably about 9 months ago, so he's starting to crawl around, and it seems that Rory, no viciousness involved. He is screams like a banshee when the small child gets close to him. It's as if
Okay.
that small child is going to kill him and maim him and rip him limb from limb. So she said, do you have some suggestions for doing that, for what to do? And I said, well, I've never had that. I said, now you have to understand that when a small child meets a dog and a dog meets a small child, especially if the dog is first, you have to set up sort of parameters before the baby arrives, so that if you use them, like, putting them in a certain room or putting them in their crate or whatever, do that before the baby arrives, so it isn't associated with the baby.
Right.
He, like Junie, is not food driven, so it's not like you could put him in with a Kong and this is his happy place. He's not food driven. So I suggested to them to distract him when he's screaming about the baby coming near him, shake a can of pennies, and that might distract him and the baby. The baby will turn around and look, and he'll turn around and look, and it'll break the moment of sheer and utter fear that this crawling monster is going to get him. I own his brother. I know the magnitude to which Sarah Bernhardt is really going to lose her job, given information he's receiving. Junie is a screamer as well, usually only for bunnies, however. So it really is important, Kaylina, to just assure. I know there's that delicate dance. You don't want to call too much so that they call you all the time and drive you nuts. However, you want to call enough so that they feel as if the puppy's doing something that's not so great, that they pick up the phone and call you, because you might have a really great fix. I mean, my squirting water works for my Irish setters. I don't know if it'll work for beagles. Clearly, Doug uses something different, but that's why that's his day job, and it's not my day job. And so it really is important to just hear them out and offer them some information. It was funny. This couple had a neighbor next door when he was a puppy who really didn't like the dog. And I said to them, please don't let the dog out on that side of the house. And don't let the dog out unless somebody's out with him, because people do get angry with dogs if they don't like dogs or they don't want the dog out there. And especially if he's barking, puppies bark, dogs bark. Beagles howl, which is what they do. It's part of the deal. And so being able to know how to cope with it yourself and then help your neighbors cope with it is really, really important. So I'm sure that you are in touch with them. And I always err on the side of happy Monday. The puppies are, 6 weeks old today. Let me know how they're doing. Send pictures. And if there are any foibles, share them with everyone so we can work through it. That way you keep your finger in, so that we will not see your husband on the front page of the newspaper, because I wouldn't want that to happen. That's sort of the last resort. And since he's in New York and I was a prosecutor, I can put him in touch with some really good defense attorneys. God forbid. But
Yeah, thankfully, I doubt that it would get to that point, but one of the homes, the lady has experience with beagles basically her whole life. The grandfather had pack beagles, and
Right.
she had beagles, and they wanted another one. So, she knows what to expect, how they can be. She knows about the howling, and she's far away from her neighbor. So if the beagle wants to howl, he can howl to his heart's content.
yay, that's the perfect home. That's the absolute perfect home. Well, good for you. And I hope the 2 show prospects pan out. What did you name them?
One, her call name is LB. Her registered name is The Bitch Is Back. And then the other one is Stitch. His call name is Stitch, and his registered name is Experiment 626, because he acts just like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, great. Well, I love those names. Well, lots of great luck. And
Thank
I
you.
know that you probably sold your, puppies via contract. So just make sure that you check in with them every year or so. Just it's a delicate discussion to remind them what the contract says, but It's really important, so that they don't forget, because nobody ever reads that contract again, and then things happen, which is why I'm having this conversation today. And really, if I'm pretty sure, Kaylee, that you probably have the dog needs to be returned to me if you can't keep it in your contract.
Yes.
So just, you might suggest that they, put up a note that says if anything were to happen to them, your number's there. They can always come to this community call just to hear about what they might want to do to plan for their pets. They might be very young and not think God will ever have anything happen to them. However, we know that, in this day and age, banking and food shopping and going to church can be a real risk to your life. So it's always, if it's not one thing, it's another. So we always should leave something out to make sure that people know who to get in contact with in the event something happens, short term, long term.
Right.
It really is. And it would be fun to have new people. And as you know, this costs no one anything. And I love being here to help you make these plans. In fact, one of the girls who's come, Alex, I'm actually speaking to her attorney tomorrow, because she's putting her paperwork together, and her attorney doesn't understand anything about what the MAP plan is, which is not unusual for attorneys because they're so used to doing it their way. And once I have a conversation with them, they usually hit their forehead and go, wow, I could have had a V8. I could have done this for all my clients, and it would have been so much easier. So we're working together. I think they're from South Carolina. So they're going to give me a ring. So it'll be fun. And I'll let you know next week. I know that Sally's going to be visiting her family next week. So she's going to be AWOL. However, we will wish her safe travels. I hear that flights these days are A, expensive, B, not reliable. So I hope everything goes smoothly. I'm going to check in with Kieran. Are you there, Kieran? And how is everything going? Any new news? Because last time you said there was something you were going to say and you couldn't say it.
It was something. Hi, Debbie and Sally and Susan. How's everybody and John? Life goes on.
And you're in Ireland right now?
I'm in Ireland. Yes, I'm in Ireland. So it's
well, it's spring. It's gotta be warmer-ish.
Slightly warmer. Slightly.
It's not Tenerife, however.
I've noticed. It certainly isn't. Yes. No, I was hoping to introduce a dog to you this week, but the ownership issue is still being resolved a long time later. So this was a stray we found on the side of the road in the middle of sheep country.
Right.
And I was hoping to introduce him, and that is going to have to wait for another week or two until the particular issue is resolved. I was just going to say there, it really underlines the importance of the MAP plan, because here is a dog with the microchip. The owner agreeing to relinquish, but hasn't done it yet. And the person who's taken the dog into its care is still in limbo, even though the dog is now a few weeks settling down very nicely. Thank you very much. And sort of hoping that the original owner doesn't change its mind.
Yeah, you have to hold a safe space for the original owner, because sometimes they feel really guilty about letting the dog go. So understanding and giving them time to process is the most difficult thing to do in the world.
Well, there's a few other complications in the story, which I will bring to light when it's all resolved and signed off. But it just once again, if you like, it highlights the importance of a MAP plan and the fallback position. And he was a dog wandering around the countryside for a few days, lucky to be alive in some respects. So crazy situation. I thought 2 weeks ago it would be done and dusted, but that's not the story tonight. So
Well, I have to tell you, it's interesting you brought that up, and the reason why I know that it's important for us to, be careful with our pets and be vigilant. I had someone come into the office with a dog that was microchipped here in North Carolina that they had found as a stray. They had it for 2 weeks. They put it on the lost and found board here in North Carolina. They took it to the vet, they microchipped it, and someone came to their house and said, "That's my mom's dog." And she said, "Well, how do you know?" And she goes, "Well, see that white patch? That's my mom's dog with the white patch. See the tip on his tail? That's the patch. I'll call him." And he came. And so the person who had given the dog a home for 2 weeks and microchipped it and took it to the vet thought, I'll be a nice person and I'll give the girl back the dog so she can give it to her mother, back to her mother. And her due diligence was not that of the FBI. It was that of a normal human. Maybe a normal human would have done one or two other things like show me some pictures or, have your mom call me or show me the vet bill or some other indicia of ownership. But she didn't do it because she listened to the story and felt bad and gave her the dog. Well, it turns out that the woman then gave the dog to her cousin. And the only reason the first woman knew was because when they took it to the vet, they microchipped it and it came back to her. And so they called her and they said, we have Fluffy here. And she says, "Oh, well, yeah, because, this girl was giving it back to her mother." And they go, "Well, that's not the person who brought it in. It's this other person." So she did some detective work and found out that the woman who had taken the dog had given it to her cousin, not to her mother, because the dog didn't belong to her or her mother or anyone in her family. She just saw it on the lost and found and thought it was a nice dog and went and conjured up a story and took the dog, and then didn't really want the dog and offered it to her cousin, who didn't know that it was taken from this other person. You think I have a boring life in this office? I do not. And so the woman is trying to get the dog back from the cousin, but the cousin said, "Wait a minute. I didn't know the dog was yours. And my cousin gave me this dog saying she had it. And I'm not giving it back. My family's attached to it," because it was like 2 weeks that she had the dog and then 2 weeks that the cousin had the dog. And then all of this came about. So she's trying to figure out what her rights are. And quite frankly, almost none, because she didn't own the dog in the first place. She freely gave the dog up. So it wasn't like the dog was technically stolen. And she did go and report it to the police. But the police said that when they interviewed the woman who took the dog, said, "I don't remember doing any of that. I must have been off my meds." And so the police said, "Forget it. It's not even don't go get another dog." And so it really is important that A, you have pictures of your dog, B, you microchip your dog, and C, if somebody comes up and you've given a stray dog a home for a week, a month, a year, ask for some and be very nice about it, but ask about some tangible evidence that this, in fact, is their dog. I mean, because we all want our dogs returned. I think that if Athena got away, or if Maggie got away, or Tonka got away, or Junie got away, I'd want someone to call me. I'd want the microchip company to call me to let me know. And I'd like to go back and get the dog. And I wouldn't be offended if they said, bring your firstborn son and every bank statement you've ever had. And because whatever it took to show them that Junie's been with me for 6 years, I would bring. So if you have a dog that you've found, the person shouldn't be adverse to showing you their indicia if pictures, vet bills, registrations with the town, the dog license type of thing, if in fact the dog is theirs. And don't give it up without that kind of information. I know you want to be really nice. However, if they don't provide that kind of information, that might be telltale that it may not be a true story, like in this case. So just, understand that if you're going to pick up your dog who's lost, bring information with you. And if someone comes saying, "Ooh, that's my dog," make sure that you tell them, I hope it is, because that would, make me happy to return a dog that was lost to someone. It's just something that you really need to make sure. Now, Kaylina, did you chip all the puppies? So I don't know if Kaylina chipped all the puppies. I'll tell you what I do. I chip all the puppies. I register the chips in my name out of the box. And then I give the chip information to the people who buy the dog. Now they can pay whatever it is to redo the puppy's chip as their name and address is primary. And my name has to always remain on it as secondary. But most people don't ever pay that $12 or $15 or $30. Bye, honey. Love you. Thanks, Sally. Most people don't buy that $12 or $15 it takes to register the microchip for whatever reason. They don't, but I don't care because I keep it up. I won't transfer it. I won't do that. You have to do that. You have to be proactive and do that. And then I will definitely pay for it. I'll make sure it's being paid for. So the moral of this story is make sure that if your pet gets out, you have some documentation with you as you look for it, so the people know that this actually is your dog Tonka, or this is your dog Maggie, or this is your dog Junie. And if somebody comes and says, that nice black and white dog that looks just like Tonka is my mother's dog, and say, I hope it is, if you've just gotten it, even though you love it. But do me a favor and bring me some, information that shows me that he lived with you. And if they balk at that, say, I get it. This is so frustrating when somebody does this. It just is something I need to have to make sure. I've heard of people who've taken dogs that weren't theirs. And I just want to make sure that, this dog goes. Of course, if the dog sees them, runs up to them and goes bananas for them, you can pretty much be sure that that's the person, that's their person. But I would still ask for some indicia of ownership. So tonight has been, as always, wonderful. Any closing thoughts, Jan or Susan?
Well, I never have to worry about not having pictures of Tonka.
Thank God for our phones, right?
Since I probably have thousands. And for the person you were talking about with the baby, maybe you can connect them. I might have some ideas for that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I absolutely will, because he definitely thinks that the baby is a small enemy, not biting enemy, but that the baby's going to hurt him, I think. She said he did the same thing with the chickens when they were little, because she had chickens. Well, if Junie was there, the chickens would have been in his mouth, not eating them, but he would have been carrying them around. And she said once the chickens went outside, he was fine with them because they weren't in his house. But this thing has come and it's not leaving.
Right.
And he's like, okay, we've had it for 6 months. When's it going out to the chicken coop, kind of thing. Thanks. I will connect the two of you. Susan?
No, just when you were talking about, the contract between the buyer and the breeder, it's a shame that people don't really talk about that from the beginning, so that would be the time to really discuss all the nuances, that because so much of it is emotion, you want the dog, but you do have to use your brain too and be able to, go through all the requirements and understand what they are.
And it's hard to go through it. I know Kaylina, if she's come back, would probably say, it's hard when you're giving this puppy to someone to say, now remember, you can't give the dog away, and you have to call me every month and you have to send me pictures. I mean, people are like, are you actually selling me this puppy, or are you renting me this puppy? So there's a delicate balance that you have to go through. However, it does behoove the breeder and the owner to have a deeper conversation than just sign on the line. Kayleen, you're,
I'm back. Yes, I'm back. I was shifting dogs around because I have.
no,
a
that's fine. I
big-
just didn't know if you microchipped your dogs before they left,
Yes, they are all microchipped and
registered to you.
registered to me. And in the contract, I let the owners know that they're registered to me, but they can be added on, and I added their contact information
Right.
onto it. So in the event that their phone number changes or they move, I would know how to get in contact with them, or at least the dog would be safe, and then I could get the dog back to them.
Right.
I think I didn't micromanage with my contract. It's just the ones that were on a spay and neuter contract, let them know up front that they were on a spay and neuter contract. I was on as co-owner. Once they show proof that the dog has been spayed or neutered, I'll come off. They'll have sole ownership of the dog. And I told them, just give me updates. Let me know how they're doing from time to time. If they have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact me. I'm here. I think the hardest thing for breeders and for some breeders is to know, yes, we bred the dog and it's ours, but once we sell it to whoever it's going to, it's their dog. We don't have the right to tell them what they can and can't do with their dog. We just say, hey, I'd like you to have a fenced in yard. If they have a fenced in yard, you hope they keep it. And you hope that they would take care of the dog as well as you, but you can't say, I want you to only feed it this food and that food and the other, and you have to feed it at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock.
No, I know it's a delicate dance, and as long as the dog is thriving, that's great. And if they call you and say the dog isn't thriving, then you can have that conversation about, well, maybe, this food might be better than that food, or, crating him because he's tearing up the house and eating everything might be better than letting him run amok. It's a delicate balance. And I think breeders also have a hard time not being too intrusive to the new puppy owner. However, providing the puppy owner with the feeling that they can call, because I think that's the most important piece. You need to feel as if you can call, and that nothing is too small. Well, he ate the sticky trap that's supposed to catch the mice. Well, that may or may not be something that's not good, and I'd like you to call me. And I'm not going to say, "What are you stupid putting down that?" No, I'm never going to do that. I'm always going to say, "Well, I think it's probably time to just read the box if you still have it, and if you don't still have it, go on the internet and see who made it and see what the story is, and maybe call the vet and ask them. Maybe they've had experience with it." I can tell you that somebody just sent me a picture, and I could not see it, by the way, of a copperhead snake, which is very venomous here in North Carolina. And they're all out now. And I said, oh, great. I can't see it in this picture, until one of my workmen said, oh, there it is. And it's brown and beige, and it was in pine chips that were brown and beige. So I couldn't see it. So you really want to just make them aware of things and have them call in the event something is wrong, not to have them feel, well, I'll annoy them, or they'll think I'm crazy. I think, Kayleen, you've probably had some friends who, complained about that puppy owner who called all the time and drove them out of their minds. It's a double-edged sword. You certainly don't want the puppy owner not to call.
Right.
So I know it's a delicate dance, but I'm so glad you did the microchip. I don't micromanage in my contracts either, but I do send them some cards by snail mail. And I do send them some texts, usually for the first year, almost once a week, which is a little annoying, I'm sure. However, I just want them to know, this is what my puppy's doing. How about yours? So that they do feel a connection to you, not that you're micromanaging them, but that they absolutely should feel free to share with you all the successes they're having, which you're not having with your puppies. And because they love to gloat when their puppies are doing real well and your puppy is still peeing in the middle of the carpet. They love to call and say, my dog doesn't have any accidents. And I go, yes, you're a much better owner than I am. Can I send mine over to you and you can fix it? Those kind of funny, laughy jokes kind of thing, because this is what we need to do to open those lines of communication, keep them open, and know that if God forbid something happens, I'll never forget when I had a puppy whose owner, nicest man in the world. You could see his wife wanted the dog like she wanted a root canal. He wanted the dog, and it was going to be his dog. So I didn't feel too bad that the wife wanted nothing to do with the dog. But I kept in touch with them. And I guess about 6 months later, she called and she says, I'm reading the contract and it says that I get a full refund for the first year if I return the dog. No questions asked. And I said, yeah, why? She goes, well, Joe dropped dead and I'm not keeping this dog. And I said, all right, then. So the puppy came back and he was lovely and he was very well mannered and lovely dog. I don't know why she wouldn't keep him, but that's okay. And I found a lovely home for him. But those are the kind of things that you want to make sure that you always have that line of communication open. And I refunded her purchase price, just so you know. Because it didn't matter to me that the dog was 6 months old. It didn't matter to me that the guy who paid for the dog was dead. Didn't matter. I got the dog back. It wasn't in the wind, which is what all of us as breeders don't want to happen. We don't want them to be in the wind. We want to know where they go. So getting back to the beginning of the conversation, when you want to place your dogs, if something happens to you short-term, long-term, just make sure you tell the breeder upfront so that they know where their dogs are going, because that's what creates that conflict when they don't know where their dogs are going. And that goes for rescues as well. They have the same clause in their contract that says, you know, you can't give this dog away, you have to return it. Well, they want it back like they want a root canal too, because they have another dog in his cage by now. So if you can say, yes, but Susan Capuano and I play in the dog park every day, and Maggie loves Tonka. And so she lives down the street and she's going to take Tonka because I'm being transferred to Korea or whatever. And the rescue will be fine. And Susan will just probably have to get down and, you know, let them know who she is and have them talk to her and have everything pan out. It's just communication. Kieran, of course, I'm letting you have the last word.
Oh, I think we'll just say good night.
I love it. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Well, we hope that next time we meet, next week or the week after, that your friend's foray into adopting a stray dog is finished and that they're living happily with the other dog. And then you'll be able to show us pictures and or show us the dog. We'll be looking forward to it. Until next time, this is Deborah Hamilton. This is the MAAP Community Call. Remember to have communication with your owner and remember to have communication with your breeders so that when you make your MAAP plan, everybody's on board. Until next Wednesday, kiss Maggie, kiss Tonka, and kiss those little rodents. Wait, let me, it's LB and Stitch for me. See, I've got
Will
pretty
do.
tonight. I'm good. All right, guys, you take care.